Welcome to the very first episode of Things Reasons. This is the independent show for Australian IT leaders. You've been with us since Cloud Reset. Thank you very much for sticking around. But we haven't gone anywhere. We're back and we're bigger than ever. We're sharper than ever. We're in an amazing new studio. Lots of things going on. I'm Naran McClung. You are?
Jono Staff.
Talk us through it.
Mate, it is excellent to be back in this fantastic new studio and going independent, bigger than before. And it's important to just let our listeners know what the show's all about. If you've been following along, we're about cutting through the noise. And this is not the polished panel version, not the LinkedIn post, but the conversation that everyone has after the meeting when people drop the script and say what they really think. Each episode, we'll unpack what's really driving change in Australian IT, technology shifts, talent gaps, budget pressure, vendor plays, and leadership calls. We're going to talk about things, what's going on in our industry that we need to pay attention to, and we're going to talk about reasons, why things happen, what drives decisions, and who stands to benefit. If you are tired of industry theatre and want clear insight, unfiltered conversation, and the occasional laugh that hits a little too close to home, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
This sounds like the conversations that you and I have. If we were sitting in a cafe, it was the end of the day, and we're talking about what's happened, what's going on in the industry, back and forth. It feels like somebody's thrown us in a studio and we're going to be doing that. And
that doesn't even feel like work, really.
I don't think so.
No.
All right, let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Okay, new segment. It's called What's on the Table. Now, our listeners can't see what's on the table, but you and I can. The first thing that I want to talk about is Telstra selling Versant Group, which is Ep.1, Telstra Purple, digital, cloud access products, etc. Essentially, Telstra's cloud services arm, retaining 25% for some reason. Don't really understand that. What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's pretty interesting. I know that there's been rumours of this sell-off happening for a while, and probably more than just this piece. So I think there's more to come based on what I'm hearing around the traps. But what does it mean? Look, hopefully it means Telstra getting back to its core.
Yes, and this is the Connected Future 30. So this is Telstra's 5-year strategy, FY30. Double down on core connectivity, radically innovate the network, shifting from selling bandwidth to treating the network as a product. Prioritise connectivity, scalable bandwidth, higher security, etc., etc. I don't see any problem with that. That seems reasonable.
I think it does. I think it's very hard to be great at everything. I think Telstra's been trying to do that for years.
Yep.
And frankly, you know, the experience for customers in the market across those range of services is probably fair to say mixed.
Yes.
So I think Telstra getting back to its core, what it's good at as a telco, fixed asset business, and looking to modernise the way that they bring network services to market, which is fundamental in any IT solution, really can only be, I think, a good thing for Australian business.
Yeah, look, I'm going to take it a step further because, frankly, this is an independent show and we can say what we like. I think our business wins more business off Telstra than just about any other service provider. That tells me that there is a little bit of disharmony out there to the betterment of perhaps more specialist players that commit themselves to a handful of things, one or two things, do them very, very, very well, and don't profess to be all things to all people. And I think if Telstra have decided that that's their future too, well then great and better for all of us.
Yeah, I think like anything, the market decides, right? Supply and demand. And sometimes the arc of logic can be long, but it always comes home.
It does. Now, this is another thing on the table. So let's talk a little bit about Accenture. And so these large IT service providers that have predominantly scaled with people, billable hours, and the advent of generative AI delivering more capability with less, we've seen massive staff cuts, right, across not just Accenture, but the other big players as well. and the market's sensitive to it, right? It's sensitive to an IT service provider that is perhaps overstaffed in a world where generative AI can deliver amazing outcomes for us. And just on that too, more recently, right, with ChatGPT 5, playing around with agent mode. I don't know if you've played around with this, right? You tick the little plus and it says agent mode and you give it a task. And I gave it a task recently to analyse tenders in the Australian market. This thing fired up a virtual machine. It was like a power user. It was like trawling the internet. It was showing me what it was doing. At the end of it, I got this curated spreadsheet of results after like 37 minutes of crunching. I shudder to think how long that would have taken a human being to do that. Now, that's just one example of something that can happen there now with this technology. These big organisations that have 1 million people, what are they going to do with them all?
Well, I think it's really interesting. And like we were saying before, the market decides. The market decides. And if I look at even the stock price for Accenture, which is a people-driven business, so it's a human capital business, they've got over 700,000 employees, their stock price has dropped by over a third in the last 12 months. And there's a lot of talk saying that, well, this is the market speculating on what Agentic AI actually means for these human capital businesses where they're exchanging people's time for money.
Right.
Very, very interesting. I think the future is these organizations need to pivot and lean into AI and disrupt themselves because somebody else is going to do it. And, you know, to your point, low code, no code options to develop your own AI agents and the output that you can get, it's actually astonishing. Really astonishing.
No, it certainly is. And I think we're already seeing changes in charging models. If it's less about billable hours by the person, human beings, scaling into the future with thousands and thousands of people, if it's not about that, then you're paying for outcomes, outcome-driven charging models, which I love, right? Which means, back to the original point, specialist players that do certain things very, very well say to a prospect, I'm going to deliver you this outcome. How I do it is irrelevant. Right? If I'm a technology business that scales properly with automation, programmatic methods and generative AI, then if I can deliver you an outcome for a price, make a profit, and not be dependent on people when my business needs to grow, I'm in a better position. And I think it actually is going to drive much more innovation in the market. And how is that a bad thing?
Well, I'd say some people think it could be, particularly people who might be impacted by this. Right. So one of the things that is going to be interesting to see how the IT consulting industry and various professional services industries deal with this in general. You know, things like entry-level jobs, grads, internships. You know, if Agentic AI can do the work of, 5 grads for one agent or something like that, what is the pathway into these industries and how do you leverage AI to develop the next generation of talent in this space? So I think there's also an opposing view here where people need to be starting to ask some questions. If you look 10, 15 years into the future, how are we going to grow the next generation of leaders? And do that alongside AI and be more productive and get better outcomes for the market. I think nobody's really got the answer to that yet.
Yeah. Look, I think universities are going to pivot. If I think back to my university degree many years ago, let's not focus too much on how long ago.
Did you graduate?
Yes, I did. Not sure where you're going with that, but I certainly did. That was a very software development focused degree. Now, I do no software development at all, right? And so I didn't really get anything out of that at all other than a piece of paper. It did help me get my first job. My point on this is that why can't graduates come out of university as super skilled prompt engineers? Why can't one graduate represent 10, 15, 20 people for output by virtue of the way that they can derive outcomes from generative AI? They must be playing with it. I mean, we did our Cordit piece some time ago. We were talking about Cogniti was it Sydney University?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, right. So amazing. Leaning into that technology. I want to think that the graduates of the future come out tooled up, ready and capable of deriving amazing outcomes with this tech, right? Particularly if the degrees are still going to be software development oriented. I think that's where that's going to have to pivot anyway.
Yeah, I think smart graduates who are looking at their future need to be thinking about how do I leverage AI and lean into it. to be more productive and better equipped to hit the ground running and bring value into the market. That's what's going to grow your career.
Yes.
And I question, with the pace that AI is developing in terms of the capability and the ease of use and adoption, I think the challenge is going to be for some of these bigger ones, just to get back to one like Accenture, where they're taking a huge hit on their share price. And, this technology is obviously quite disruptive for their business model.
Yeah.
Will they be able to pivot fast enough?
Right.
And maybe there's going to be a whole new market for, AI-driven consultancy, and that might be the place that attracts the smart new talent.
How interesting.
It used to be where you would covet an internship at an Accenture.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
All right. So we've got generative AI putting pressure on staff, and we're seeing like upwards of 12,000 layoffs with TCS. You got Wipro, Capgemini, Cognizant, all aggressively trying to invest in AI platforms and facing market skepticism of the amount of staff that they have. But yet we recognise that skilled staff are needed to bring this to life. Case in point, OpenAI launching their own both direct and channel consultancy piece to see enterprises embrace their technology. And it wasn't enough perhaps to have the tech and they will come, build it and they will come. They're taking the bull by the horns and saying, you know what, we're going to help you implement this. So there's clearly a need for human beings to turn this stuff on. So you're kind of damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You need the people to turn it on. You've got too many people in your business. Your market says you need to adjust because of generative AI. You're getting pulled one direction and the other direction. What's a business to do?
Well, it is a pretty dynamic space for sure. And there's lots of different points of view about how to deal with this. I think one thing's for sure is that the big consultancy providers are under pressure. They are reducing headcount, whether they're publicly acknowledging that that's due to agentic AI or agendas around AI, is remains to be seen. But I think they are reducing headcount. They're leveraging AI to do more with less, because their industry is being disrupted and the market's demanding it. If you can get an outcome from a consultancy for half the price because they're leveraging AI,
yes,
I know which one I'm going to buy.
All right. Well, look, we mentioned Accenture. Right, in the face of downward pressure on staff numbers affecting stock price, market skepticism, etc., they've just bought CyberCX. Now,
incredible move.
Right. So did they do that to buy people, capability, all of the above? What's going on there?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the motivation is. Obviously, CyberCX is a very, very well-known brand in the industry around cyber. And it seems like every time, the government or mainstream media wants somebody comment on somebody getting hacked, there's somebody from CyberCX there talking about it. I think there's a lot of brand equity associated with that. It'd be interesting to see. I know they're talking about maintaining the brand. I don't know who's going to be leading the deals. Is Accenture pulling CyberCX through into their customer base, or is it the other way around? Is this about attaching other consultancy services around CyberCX?
Right. I wonder with these acquisitions, the strategies around staff retention. Okay, buying capability is one thing. I think your point on who leads the deal is interesting. You can't put everybody in golden handcuffs for 12 months or 24 months, etc. And there must be a whole strategy around retention and culture and all the things you need to do, career paths for top talent to stay in a business. I'm always super skeptical of any business that acquires another one that is so central to the human beings that come across. All right, because human beings often aren't that happy with disruption. Like if I think of all the acquisitions that have happened over the last sort of 3 to 5 years, you see an exodus, don't you? You always see an exodus of staff when that happens. I do wonder how that's going to affect them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they maintain the culture and how those two organisations are going to bring that together. Yeah. Certainly, it's a huge change management piece.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a really big move.
And look, again, going back to this point of scaling with technology, I think the cybersecurity space particularly is one that really lends itself to tech and scaling with tech and being perhaps less dependent on human beings going forward.
Yeah, I think that's right. Time will tell as to whether or not this is a good thing for the industry and CyberCX's customers or Accenture's customers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a watch and wait.
Yeah.
Watch and wait, big move, and it's not going to happen overnight. But again, the market will decide whether or not they're doing a good job.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we're going to see more challenges, right? We're going to see these sort of cloud native, generative AI native challenges emerging in market, delivering very specific outcomes. I love these charging models that talk to paying for the percentage that a human being would have done to deliver the task, wrap a managed service around some agents, and deliver to that promise. I think we're going to see more and more of that going forward as well.
Yeah, and ultimately, look, cybersecurity is a very dynamic landscape. The bar is getting raised continually on Australian business all the time. It feels like there's a new standard you need to comply with. There's new tools you need to buy. I think it's kind of like the Wild West out there.
Yeah, it still is. There's still a lot of self-leveling going on. And I mean, we've spoken about this before, right? I mean, how many CISOs have you seen that just aren't? Right, I say that respectfully. I don't want to stand in the way of anybody's career aspirations, but you put your CISO hat on one day when it suits you. Are you really a CISO? We see so much staff movement there, and I think not all SOC providers are created equally either. Right, I mean, just because you have a service and somebody perhaps maybe if you're lucky stares at a screen occasionally. I mean, not all services are built the same way. I mean, we know that there's massive disparity in the way organisations treat threat intelligence and triage incidents, and we all manage to the same metrics of response and closure. I think the combination of the skills piece and service expectation, it's all still in flux and it's all still going through a natural self-leveling.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing's for sure, you're never going to do away with smart people at the front of those solutions who need to keep up with the latest attack vectors and threats to keep you safe. So I think it's always going to be a combination of clever people and best of breed technology to keep you secure.
Yes.
And what was working last year isn't going to work this year.
That's right.
You've got to be very dynamic as a business and embrace change in that space if you want to stay secure.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think the evolution of the MSP in market is one that is embracing more tech, more AI, more machine learning, more agents, leaning in, moving up the value chain as well. Like if I think about our SOC analysts, for example, they spend more time doing proper threat hunting now than, trudging through incidents and triage, etc., where tech can do 80 to 85% of that for us now accurately. That's where we need to be, right? I mean, that's what a good SOC analyst should be doing, is that proper human-led work that you just can't necessarily replace entirely with technology.
Yeah, absolutely. If I think about what that means for our IT community, for the business community, thinking about, how do I stay compliant? How do I stay safe? Maybe you're already a CyberCX customer. Maybe you were thinking about it. I think it still comes back to the fundamentals. You've got to do the due diligence to find a partner that you can trust. These solutions are led by people. You need clever, experienced people at the helm of these services to keep you safe. So I would encourage you to think about doing the work, really doing your due diligence, meeting the people that are involved, and not just buying off the brochure.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. So, Jono, I'm going to address the elephant in the room here, right? So, yes, we are here launching Things Reasons. Great, thank you, loyal watchers and listeners for Cloud Reset. But the most important thing we need to address is the fact that you and I don't work together anymore.
Not in a official day-to-day capacity.
That's right.
I left you.
Why did you leave me? What did I do wrong? I felt like we had a good thing going on. You know what I mean? I don't feel like I insulted you. Maybe I did. What happened?
Well, like all good things, eventually they come to an end.
Right.
And I've just got a great opportunity to go out there and build something. I've been doing this IT caper for just over 20 years now, and I felt like the time was right. And there's no better time to do that than when you're on top.
Okay.
And we're certainly on top at Macquarie. Perhaps you will stay there.
Well, I'm going to stay there for sure. I'm very happy where I am. It just feels like a power complex problem for you. I don't know what it was. You need more autonomy. I mean, talk us through that. What's going on there?
Well, I think there's just lots of stuff going on in our industry, and joining a growing business like ASC is just a great opportunity to build something. and I think the market's ready. I think it's time to disrupt the managed services space.
All right. Well, look.
So watch out.
Congratulations on your job change. You know, clearly we do still work together. Our organisations will work together as well. There's almost no overlap between them. So I love what you're doing, and I hope that, we can continue to work together. Clearly we've got this. So for as long as people keep watching, and you will, right, then we won't have a problem.
No, it's excellent. And we are fully independent. And if anybody's wondering, we're bootstrapped. Feel free to send money. Naran's starting a GoFundMe.
We're not allowed to do that, are we? We can't ask people for money.
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Maybe later.
Okay. Okay. Good. So we're going to continue to have guests. Now, as the opening show, all right, the launch of Things Reasons, it's just you and I talking today, but that'll be the only time we do that, potentially, because every other episode I think we're going to have a guest. They're going to be different people, all walks of life, IT leaders, IT adjacent, topics of interest for us. I shudder to think where we're going to take this, Jono. There's certainly a great many topics that I'd love to explore. I'm not going to go down any of those rabbit holes right now, but I do know that when we get the guests on, we're going to ask the quick fire 3 questions and keep that consistent.
Quick fire 3 questions.
Yeah.
I guess I'm the test dummy today.
That's right.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
I was born ready. Let's go.
No, I expect honest answers from you here, okay? Our listeners demand transparency from you.
Let's do it.
Okay, fine. All right, question number 1. What is the one piece of advice that you would give your past self before taking on a major tech initiative or challenge?
Wow. So, there's been lots of these. There's been lots of challenges. I would say professionally, personally. Let's stick with professionally. I think professionally, big tech initiatives or challenges. Well, big tech initiatives are basically challenges. I've never been afraid of jumping in the deep end. If I was going to go back and give some advice to my past self, it would probably be to trust my instincts more and act faster. So when I know something's right and I've got a good feel for the direction that I need to take, whether it's implementing a project, learning a new skill, changing my career path,
Let's not get back into that.
I think I would move faster. Typically, if I look back, I knew what I needed to do, and I probably waited usually a few months longer than I should have.
Yep.
And I think time is such a precious commodity.
Okay.
So don't waste it. If you want to get ahead and you've got a good feel for where you need to go and what's going to make you happy and what's going to work,
yes,
I think move fast.
So that feels like the privilege of confidence. Clearly, you've built that up over time. What you're saying to your younger self is to accelerate that and trust your instincts sooner, as opposed to 20 years down the track when you're a bit longer in the tooth.
Absolutely. Yeah. Move fast. Time is a precious commodity. That 20 years has gone by very, very quickly.
And I'm guessing you can't be too afraid of failure too, right? This idea of fast fail, put something out there. McKinsey's 3 horizons thing, say I'm going to work on 3 things. I don't expect all 3 of them to work. You pull 2 of them down and maybe one of them becomes a thing.
Yeah, I think that's right. Be confident, get after opportunities, and what's really the worst thing that can happen, really?
Well, I don't know. You lose your job, have no money, end up homeless. I don't know.
that would be the worst thing.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Question number 2. What's something you used to believe in tech leadership that you no longer do?
Ooh, okay. Wow, there's a few of these. There's a few different places you could go with this. I used to believe that the people in charge had all the answers.
They had more than you.
Yeah, that's right. And you can. I think I've quickly found out that everybody's making it up as they go along to varying degrees.
Where are you going with that? Where are you going with that?
Let's all be honest with ourselves. You said be honest. Let's be honest. I think everybody is feeling their way through the industry. It's changing all the time. Look at AI now in the last 2-3 years. That's just exploded. People have to pivot. I think just watch out for people who pretend like they've got all the answers, because no one really does.
Yep.
But I think if you're curious and collaborative and you're a little bit vulnerable, you can show real leadership in the sector and make a difference. And just don't assume that anybody's got all the answers.
I really like that. You know what? If I was to say something to younger Naran, aggressive, argumentative, knew everything, overly arrogant, etc., way different than the current day version. If I was to say something to him, I'd say that the people that had the jobs that you aspired to your point, they just had the job, right? And so when you eventually ended up in a position like that yourself, you realise, you know what, I can do this. There wasn't anything special about this at all. And you go through the usual motions. The first 6 months difficult. You have to endear yourselves to new colleagues and peers, etc., and really figure out the ins and outs of the job. But there's no difference between you and the person that you aspire to, or the job that they have that you don't currently have. And you learn that, don't you, over time? And I think you derive confidence from that.
I think that's right. At the end of the day, I think all business, not just tech business in our industry, is just people talking to people, making decisions.
Yes.
That's like 90% of it. and some
talking about things with reasons.
Yeah, and all, leadership, tech leaders. I think everyone's just doing their best to varying degrees.
Yeah.
And you're the sum of your lived experiences. So the more experiences you can get, the more wins you can have, the more losses you can take and keep going, the better leader you'll be. But you need to stay, I think, vulnerable, and remember you don't have all the answers.
All right, fine. So here's what I took from that. Everybody's talking bollocks. We just have to accept that they are, which leads me to question 3. What's your gut check for spotting a good partner or walking away from a bad one?
Okay, I assume we're talking about, tech partners, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We are.
We're both happily married for a long time. So
yes, for now.
We've done all right in that department. Tech partnerships, how to spot a good one. I think it comes down to a few things. Mm-hmm. I would be very, very, very interested in the quality of the team that's managing the partnership for you. So your partner account manager, the pre-sales people, the technical customer-facing people, anybody who's wrapped around the partnership, I'd be very interested in their capability and their drive and their willingness to advocate for you and for your customers. I've seen some great tech, and great vendors, but the team not so good, partnership fails. So number one thing is you need great partner account managers and a team around them. The ones that I've worked with, you know who you are, and I'll be doing business with them forever.
No, I can't help it. So what I heard from you, we just talked about generative AI, and we talked about big IT firms shedding staff because the tech does all of it. You've said the opposite here. What you're after is the human connection, and you want to get into that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the quality of the people makes a huge difference. Be discerning around that and push to make sure you get the A team.
Got it.
Around your partnership.
Yeah.
The second thing is obviously make sure that the tech catalog drives outcomes for your customers.
Yes.
It has to be aligned to your strategy, to your customer's strategy and what you're trying to achieve. Don't just select it because the rebate's better than the other one. Don't just select it because they're offering you a bigger market development funding prize. Actually do the work and pick great tech.
Yes.
That's the second thing. And I think the third one is flexibility. So the ability to change programs to suit your business and your sales motion, I think that's really important. For example, if you're a reseller of the tech versus a solution managed service provider of that tech, where the tech's a component of outcome-based services that you're providing, that changes the way you do business with these partners and their expectations on you and then your customers. And you don't want unnatural tension or friction in the partnership where they want something that you don't want and you can't deliver. I think that's a recipe for disaster. So the three things, great people, number one, tech that gets you outcomes for your customers, because otherwise, what are you doing it for?
The point? Yeah.
And the third one is make sure that the programs are aligned with the way that you do business so that there's no friction.
Yep, I love all of that. And I just want to touch on one thing you said before about being prepared to be vulnerable, which sort of goes to transparency and honesty. And I think people underestimate the power of honesty in a conversation. When you can show up to a prospect and say, look, you've asked us to do this thing. Yes, it's in our wheelhouse. No, we haven't done it before. And let me tell you how we're going to do it. And there is never a downside to being that open and transparent. You're going to deliver the outcome, to your point. Your customer's going to get what they want from you. Tell them if it's the first time you've done it, right? Be very open and transparent. It gives you a little bit more mileage as well. It gives you a little bit more flexibility. You're going to be agile. You're going to think on your feet. Maybe things aren't going to work straight away, but the customer knows that you're going to work hard. You've told them it's the first time you're doing it. They're going to get the outcome anyway. I mean, when is it not a good thing to be really open and transparent?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, 90% of this game is people talking to people, going into rooms, making decisions, and you need to be doing that in good faith.
All right. Thank you. Those were the 3 questions.
All right.
Very well done. That was episode 1, Things Reasons. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are super grateful. You're going to find this podcast everywhere you find your podcast, Spotify, YouTube. We're going to be blasting LinkedIn. We absolutely want feedback as well. We love questions. We're going to bring that back. I loved it when we had the Q&A session.
Yeah, we'll have some fun with that.
Have some fun with that. So thank you very much for tuning in. We do have a string of guests lined up to join us on the show. So look out for more. And yeah, just subscribe and stay tuned.
Thanks very much for listening, everybody. First episode of Things Reasons with Naran and Jono. See you again next time.